Hi there, this is one of several videos I'm doing today on movies that came out in 1973. I resolved to see a whole bunch of them this year, seeing as how I turned 40. I wanted to catch up with the movies that came out 40 years ago because I haven't seen a bunch of them. And I've also invited comments from people and recommendations for films. And there's one guy who really loves 1973 movies. Felt it's like the best year for movies ever. And judging by some of them, I'd say he's getting close to that. I'm not sure if I agree with him just yet because I'm going to see a bunch more. But there was one film that he recommended I check out amongst many, which was called Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, which I hadn't seen, so I decided to check that one out. It's directed by Sam Peckinpah, who is responsible for movies like The Getaway with Steve McQueen and The Wild Bunch and Straw Dogs with Dustin Hoffman. The guy's got quite a rep for being a tough guy and for making brutally violent movies, at least what was considered brutally violent then. And this is certainly one of the bloodiest Billy the Kid movies that I've ever come across. You know, a lot of squibs and blood dribbling up out of people's bodies and what have you. The character of Billy the Kid is played by Kris Kristofferson, who bears something of a resemblance to Kurt Russell in this movie, seeing as how he has long hair and he's clean-shaven, unlike normally he has a full mustache and beard. But his voice is very distinctive. You never can mistake him for anyone else when he speaks. And Pat Garrett is played by James Coburn. Now, during the first half of this movie, I was shocked, actually, by just how similar this movie appeared to be to another film that I really enjoyed called Young Guns 2. Young Guns was a movie that came out, I think, in 1988, starring Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid. And he was dealing with cattle rustlers and bad guys, and he had this whole squadron of young, handsome dudes who were fighting alongside him, among them Kiefer Sutherland and his brother Charlie Sheen, obviously Emilio Estevez's real brother Charlie Sheen, among others. For the sequel, he's got Kiefer Sutherland working with him, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, Alan Ruck from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and a very young Balthazar Getty. And Pat Garrett is played by William Peterson, who you probably know best from one of the CSI shows. He also played Will Graham in Manhunter, which was the first of the Hannibal Lecter movies that was made. So seeing as how I really enjoyed that movie when I first saw it, and still probably, I was a bit surprised when I noticed that not only was the storyline similar, but actual scenes and pieces of dialogue seemed to be taken directly from Young Guns 2. And then I realized, oh, wait a second, Young Guns 2 came out in 1990, which is like over 15 years since Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, so that's the movie that ripped everything off. And guess what? James Coburn is in Young Guns 2 as well. He has just one role, but he actually uses one of his lines from the original film, which is something to the effect of, shove it up your ass and set fire to it. Really like James Coburn a lot, and although I like a lot of the actors in Young Guns 2, he came in and just cleaned up the floor with everybody. He says, "You think you're the Prince of New Mexico, Billy the Kid? Well, let me tell you something. I am New Mexico." You know, really like James Coburn. So the setup for the story is Pat Garrett, just like in Young Guns 2, Pat Garrett is friends with Billy the Kid and is ridden alongside with him, but now wants to leave Billy the Kid's gang to become a private citizen or just less of a criminal, start his own business, what have you. So that's what he's doing. But after he leaves the gang, he's approached by several well-connected people to become sheriff and track down Billy the Kid and kill him for a large sum of money, which is what he does. So the beginnings of both of these movies are very similar to each other. And there's one scene in particular that is almost identical from the two movies, almost identical to each other. You've got Billy the Kid, he's in chains, he's been arrested. He's being held by a couple of lawmen in this building, which is the second floor. In both the movies, on the second floor, the same thing. And one guy who has a shotgun is boasting that he's got 18 dimes in each barrel of his shotgun, $1.80, which is exactly what happens in Young Guns 2. Both movies, the exact same thing. So then the one guy with the shotgun leaves, and the other guy is watching him. He's a bit friendlier. So Billy Kid says to him, "I want to go down to the outhouse, you know, because I need to do my business." He goes down there, he finds a pistol sitting for him in the outhouse. And here's the weird part. In the classic Sam Peckinpah film, why that revolver is there is not explained. But in Young Guns 2 it is. Very weird. So as they're making their way back in, Billy the Kid, of course, pulls out the revolver he's just found, and it threatens the other lawman, tells him to put his gun away and back down, but he doesn't, so he shoots him. And then he picks up the shotgun with the $1.80 in it and blasts the guy from the second-story window and blasts the other guy from the second-story window and makes his escape. And there's actually a one-liner that comes after that in both movies. Kris Kristofferson in the original says, keep the change, after he shoots the guy with the 18 dimes. And in Young Guns 2, Emilio Estevez says, best $1.80 I ever spent. So I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I enjoyed this movie so much, and it's just directly ripping off this classic Sam Peckinpah film. But of course, after that, it pretty much becomes its own movie. Or I should say it already was its own movie. You know, the two diverge from each other. I'm all mixed up because I saw the one way before the other, and in the wrong sequence, of course. But it becomes sort of episodic, whereas James Coburn, as Pat Garrett, is making his way, trying to find out where Billy's gone to and is tracking him down. Meanwhile, Billy has got his group of men, and he's going off to escape, basically, stay out of the law's hands and stay away from assassins and what have you. And eventually their paths, of course, converge in the end. So I enjoyed this movie. There were some younger actors that I recognized from their later films, such as Harry Dean Stanton. He's a brief part in it. Can't remember who else I might have seen this. I've only seen like a couple of Sam Peckinpah films, but this is a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that it's one of my favorite westerns. I have westerns, more current westerns that I like more than that, and of course I like the Sergio Leone westerns quite a bit, especially The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. But it's a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed it, so I'm very grateful for the recommendation, and I'll be doing more 1973 movies today and next week and in the year ahead. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. And of course, if you've got recommendations for me for a particular 1973 movie you want me to check out, I know that's sort of a narrow field, but that's what I'm focusing on right now. So thanks very much, and I'll see you again real soon.